right, these are some notes and examples to go with section 3.1. You've already, or you should have already watched video 1 part 1, but now video 1 part 2 is homework tonight. So make sure you have part 1 and part 2 done and ready for me to check in tomorrow. Okay? So in part 1, you've already watched the video on that. You should have seen these vocab terms. Let's go over them. We're going to do 1 or 2 together and then pause the video and you'll do 1 or 2 as practice. All right, so terms. We said in the video that the terms are the in between the plus and minus signs, the different pieces that we're adding or subtracting together in our algebraic expression. Okay, so notice here, I'm going to underline them, and my little brackets here, my little underlines, all connect. Nothing's left out. There's no gaps or spaces. So I have a term that's 9x. The next term is -2. The next term is 7. And the next term is -x. Okay, so you just separate it at the plus or minus signs. And here I have 4 terms. Okay, now like terms are terms that have the same variable to the same exponent or the same power. Okay, so for example, here I have 9x and -x. Those would be like terms together. So I'm going to write 9x and x, negative x. Those are like terms. And then also the constants, the plain numbers by themselves. So I have the -2 and the 7. Those are also like terms with each other. Okay, so I split it because I have 2 pairs of like terms. All right. Constants. Constants are just the plain numbers by themselves. So in this case, -2 and 7 are my constants. And then coefficient means a number multiplied by a variable. Okay, so I'm going to look at the terms that have a variable, the x here, and the number multiplied by the x in this case is 9. And the number multiplied by the x here, so it says -x, but that's a negative, and there's kind of an invisible -1 there. So -1 is the other coefficient. Okay? All right, I'm going to do 1 more, and then we'll pause, and you do this one for practice. So I'm going to underline first, and I'm going to make sure all my underlines meet. There's no gaps, no spaces, nothing's left out. Okay? You can see we have 4 terms in between the plus or minus signs, in between the addition and subtraction there. So the terms are z squared, 5z, -3z squared, and z. Okay? Nothing's left out. Notice that this negative sign is attached to that term, just like this negative sign was attached here, and that negative sign is attached to the 2. The negative stays glued to whatever comes right behind it. Okay, so like terms. Well, I'm looking for terms that have the same variable but also to the same power or the same exponent. So for example, here I have z squared and -3z squared. So those are like terms. And then I have the plain z's, right? So 5z and z. All right, again, I have 2 pairs or 2 sets of like terms in this one. You might have more, you might have less, depends on the question. All right, constants, plain numbers by themselves. Don't have any of those. Okay? And then coefficients. Remember, the coefficient is the number multiplied by a variable. So because I have 4 terms that all have variables here, each one of these is going to have a coefficient. So the coefficient here, if there's nothing, it's an invisible 1, a +5, a -3, and a 1. Okay? So let's pause, and you're going to do this one. Find the terms, like terms, constants, and coefficients for this example. And then we'll check it together when everybody's ready. Okay, if you're ready to check, here's what I got for the last one. So there's my 4 terms. Make sure you keep the negatives attached to them. My like terms are just the B's, right? I don't have anything that pairs up with the C. I don't have anything that pairs up with the plain 5. So here I only have 1 pair or 1 set of like terms that go together. Constants, 5 is the only number by itself. And then everything that has a variable, I'm going to write down the number in front of it. So -2, -6, and -1 are the coefficients for this bottom one. Okay? All right. So after we've kind of got that vocab figured out, we are ready to then do what we call combine like terms, or we're going to simplify these expressions. Okay, so you saw this already in video 1. We'll do a few more examples together, and then you're going to finish these and check them. So remember that if there's no coefficient, it's a 1. So this is like saying 1h plus 1h plus 1h, right? Just like if I had 1 marker plus 1 marker plus 1 marker, I would just count them up, and I would have 3 markers, right? So 1h plus 1h plus 1h is 3 h's. For 2 h's and 4 h's and 3 h's, I add them all up. 2 and 4 is 6, 7, 8, 9. I would have 9 h's all together here. Okay? So we're finding the like terms, just like we did up here, same variable, and putting them together. Okay? Well, what if we have negatives? I just have to remember my rules from chapter 1 with integers, right, when we're dealing with negatives. And I can just go left to right. So -6 and +2, okay? Well, this would give me, I'm adding, signs are different. The negative is bigger. And then just bring it down and keep going, left to right. Again, you can do add the opposite if that helps, or you can say, okay, -4 minus 5, put that together, and I'd end up with -9k. All right? So we have to go back and remember our rules from chapter 1. If it helps you, sing the song, right? Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Use that as you go. All right, I'm going to do one more row here. So now I'm looking at this. If there's no coefficient, that's just a 1. So I have 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7, and I'm going to put those all together. Well, 1 and 1, that's 2, 5. Okay, I can go left to right, or I can kind of just do it in my head, and I would get 12 A's here. Okay? All right, let me go. I'm going to skip down here to this one, because notice here I have T's and constants. So I'm going to find my like terms. All right, I like to color code. I have T's here in green, and I have constants here in pink. Well, the T's, 9 minus 3, or 9 plus -3, would give me 6t, and then 7 plus -2, or 7 minus 2, would give me 5. If it's positive, put a plus sign in front of it. If this was a -5, put a minus sign. Okay? We're going to learn now that minus and negatives are really interchangeable. They're kind of the same thing now. All right, so that's what I got. All right, I'm going to go down and do one more here. So it looks like I have X's. And I'm going to underline it in color code, making sure everything's included. There's no gaps or spaces in between my terms here. Okay? All right, let's look at the X's. Well, 14x and -1x would be 13 X's. And then -12 and -3 would make -15. Okay? So this is called simplifying because I'm going from 4 terms, combining the like terms together, and now I only have 2 terms. So it's a more simplified way of writing it. Okay? So you have 6 more here to practice. So you're going to pause and finish this front side. All you're doing is underlining, combining the like terms, okay, and writing it more simplified. So pause until everybody's ready to check these. Okay, so I have the answers up here. Notice my underlining. Nothing's left out. And then I either work left to right or kind of just find the like terms and put those together. So take a moment to check. All right, let's flip it over. So now I'm on the back side, and I want to just talk about the distributive property. Okay. If you remember, you probably have done distributive property before. Distributive property is a way of kind of showing multiplication with something that's inside parentheses. So for all of these, I want you to show that we're going to multiply. Whatever's out front gets multiplied by everything inside the parentheses. So in this case, I'd be doing 5 times 7x. Well, 5 times 7 is 35. So this would give me 35x. And then 5 times negative 9 is negative 45. All right, so we're going to show the arrows and then do that multiplication and write out what we get. So I'm going to do the arrows here. I'm going to write it this way so I have more room. So negative 3 times 5y would be negative 15y. Negative 3 times negative 8 is going to be positive 24. So a lot of this is multiplication facts and then also remembering our rules for multiplication with negatives. Okay, when there's no number and it's just a negative sign, then that's like an invisible negative 1. So draw your arrows. Negative 1 times 4y would be negative 4y. Negative 1 times negative 6, negative times a negative, is going to be positive 6. All right, I'm going to do one more and then you're going to practice the next 2 rows here. Okay? So again, an invisible negative 1, draw your arrows. I'm going to be multiplying that by 2g and 10. So negative 1 times 2g, negative 2g. Negative 1 times 10, negative 10. Okay? So I want you to draw the arrows for all of these and then tell me what you would get when you actually distribute. All right, so pause and everyone's going to finish just up to here. Okay? And then we'll check those. All right, so pause it here if you need to check these. Make sure we are good with distributing. All right? And then when you're ready, we're going to finish the next 3 together. So I'm looking at these now. So here I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to distribute and combine like terms. All right, so let me do this one. I'm going to show my arrow. 3 times b is 3b. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. And then I'm going to bring down my plus 5 and my minus 2b. Okay, so I wrote it all out, and now I'm going to find like terms to combine. Right, so let me put my b's together. 3b minus 2b would just be 1b. And then negative 21 plus 5 would be what? Negative 16. So I got b minus 16. Okay, let's do one more. I'm going to show my arrows. Negative 4 times b is negative 4b. Negative 4 times negative 3 is 12. And then bring down your minus 8 and your plus 5b. And then color code and combine your like terms. So negative 4b and 5b gives me 1b. I don't have to write the 1. I could just say b. And then 12 minus 8 is 4. Okay? All right, I want you to finish this one. And then the bottom 8, okay, there are 8 more here. You might have to distribute, and you might have to then combine like terms. Have scrambled answers at the bottom. So you need to finish this page up, check with the scrambled answers, and make sure they all match up. And then I'll put the answers up just at the very end when everybody's ready if you need it. But you should really be able to check with the answers on here. Okay? Okay, if everybody's ready to check with the last 8 on this page, I'll put the answers up. Hopefully you got the scrambled answers there. And we'll keep working on this tomorrow.